You know that look? I'm talking about that specific, almost impossible look when a car rolls out of a high-end booth. It isn't just shiny. It looks wet.
The wet look, yeah, that's the holy grail of automotive refinishing.
Exactly. It looks like the paint is still liquid, like you could dip your finger into the quarter panel and just create a ripple. That glass-like deep gloss is the only thing that separates a decent repair from a perfect finish.
Right.
And today we are obsessing over exactly how to manufacture that look.
But we aren't talking about $20,000 custom show paints today. Not the really ultra premium lines that cost a mortgage payment.
Nope.
We are diving into something arguably more interesting. We're looking at how to get that show car finish using a blue collar, a workhorse system that is widely misunderstood.
We are doing a deep dive into the Nason SelectClear system. Specifically, we're telling the tale of two clears. We have the 462.0 spot clear and the 465.0 high solids overall clear. And before you check out thinking, okay, paint numbers, this is going to be boring, let me stop you right there.
It is definitely not boring. I mean, if you care about the craft or even just understanding how materials work, this is where the rubber meets the road.
We have dug through technical data sheets, safety data sheets. We've looked at Reddit forum wars where people are practically yelling in all caps.
Oh, always.
And a very dense document called the implementation protocol. And what we found is that painting isn't just art. It is rigid, unforgiving chemistry.
That is the key takeaway for this entire dive. Nason is often viewed in the industry as a value line.
The budget option.
It's the budget option on the shelf.
Yeah.
But if you look at the chemistry, the cross-linking, the solids content, and if you adhere strictly to the protocols we're about to break down, you can get results that rival the premier lines.
But you have to follow the rules. And we found one rule in particular, a 20% rule, buried in the mixing math for the 465.0 that seems to be the grim reaper of paint jobs. If you miss it, you ruin the finish. It's an instant fail.
It's the difference between a mirror finish and looking like the skin of an orange.
Yeah.
It's that binary.
So our mission today is to decode these documents. We're going to tell you exactly how to mix, spray, and troubleshoot these clears. We're going to make you an expert in this little nascent ecosystem. Let's unpack this.
Let's get into it.
Okay, so we need to start by defining our contenders here. We call this the tale of two clears because even though they sit next to each other on the shelves and look nearly identical in the can, they're completely different animals.
Totally different.
Let's start with the lighter weight contender, the 462.000.
Right. The 462.0 is your sprinter. Technically, it is a 2K urethane spot clear. And in the industry, we classify this as a spot and panel clear.
So when we say spot, we're talking small. We're talking about containment, right?
Exactly. Think about a bumper scuff, mirror cap, maybe blending a single fender. The chemical architecture of the 462.0 is, well, it's just built for speed. It's a 2.1 VOC compliant product.
Which means it meets those strict environmental standards regarding volatile organic compounds.
Correct. But from a painter's perspective, its main selling point isn't just compliance, it's the cycle time. It allows you to move cars.
I saw in the datasheet it mentions fast build. Does that just mean it dries fast?
Fast build usually refers to how quickly the film thickness develops, but the real speed comes from the cure. The number that just jumps out at me is the dust-free time.
Okay.
With the 462.0 at 70 degrees Fahrenheit, the paint is dust-free in 20 minutes.
Wow, that is incredibly fast.
Yeah.
And for anyone who doesn't paint, or maybe just paints as a hobby in their garage, why is that 20-minute window so critical?
Because the world is a dirty place. I mean, even in a professional spray booth with downdraft filters, you have dust, you have lint, pollen, maybe a stray gnat.
Right.
Every single minute that paint is wet and sticky, it's a magnet for debris. So if you're doing a quick repair on a bumper, you want that paint to skin over as fast as humanly possible so nothing gets stuck in it.
The 462 minimizes that risk window.
It absolutely does.
So 462.0 is the sprinter. Then we have the heavyweight, the SelectClear 465-00.
This is the high solids overall clear. Now, high solids is a term that gets thrown around a lot in marketing, but chemically, it refers to the ratio of resin to solvent. This has more actual material, more resin, and less evaporating solvent than a standard clear.
And what does that translate to visually? Why do I want more resin?
It gives you depth. It improves what we call DOI, or distinctness of image.
I love that term DOI. It's just the perfect way to describe quality.
It is. Imagine looking at your reflection in a pond. If the water is choppy or muddy, your reflection is fuzzy. That's low DOI.
Yeah.
If the water is perfectly still and glass-like, That's high DOI. High solids clears generally give you that sharper, deeper, wet look because there's physically more material left on the car after the solvents evaporate.
So you're building a thicker lens over the color.
That's a great way to put it, yes.
So the 46500 is designed for the big jobs and panel, multi-panel, overall repairs.
Correct. If you're painting the entire side of a van or doing a complete respray of a restoration project, this is the one you want. And there's a functional reason for that too. It stays wet longer.
Oh.
We call this open time.
Open time. That makes sense. It's the window where the chemistry is still active and flowing.
And it's crucial. If you're painting a huge van, by the time you spray the back, you don't want the front to be dry. You need the whole side to stay wet so the spray passes melt into each other.
Right.
If you use the fast 462.0 on a huge van, you'd get dry patches where the spray passes overlap. The 465.00 just flows out together into one seamless sheet.
Okay, so we have the Sprinter, the 462, and the heavyweight, the 465. I want to play a game I'm calling the Strategic Product Selection Matrix.
I love a good matrix. Let's do it.
I'm going to give you a scenario based on our sources, and you
Yeah.
tell me which clear to grab and, more importantly, why. I want to test the practical application here.
Go for it.
Scenario A. You have a customer. Let's say it's a soccer mom with a scuff on the corner of her minivan bumper. She needs the car back by 5:00 p.m. for practice.
That's the 462.00 all day long. It's a spot repair, small area, and the defining constraint is time. You need that rapid cycle time.
No question.
You can't wait overnight for it to cure. You spray it, bake it, or air dry it fast, buff it, and send it. It's all about throughput.
Okay. Scenario B. You are restoring a 1969 Camaro. You're painting the entire hood, roof, and trunk. You want to win a trophy at the local show.
465.0000, without a doubt. You need the open time to keep those large horizontal panels wet. If you use a fast clear on a hot hood, you'll get stripes.
Right.
Plus, you want that high solids depth to really make the color pop. You want it to look like it was dipped in glass.
Okay, scenario C. This one is interesting. It's the middle of winter. Your shop is freezing. It's barely 60 degrees in there. You're worried about the paint running or sagging down the panel because it's so cold?
This is a tricky one, but I'd lean toward the 462.00. Because it sets up faster, it has less time to slide down the panel. Oh, okay.
Cold paint acts like cold molasses. It's thick, but gravity eventually pulls it down. In cold weather, high solids clears like the 465 can stay liquid for too long, and suddenly you look back and your door looks like a melting candle.
Right.
The 462 locks up quicker.
Okay, last one, scenario D. You're matching a modern factory paint job on a luxury car, say a BMW or Mercedes. The factory paint looks really thick and has a specific texture, almost a very slight ripple to it.
That's the 46500. Factory paint is essentially high solids technology. To match that thick, rich texture of an OEM finish, you need the solids content of the 465.
The 462 would look wrong.
The 462 might lay down a little too flat and thin, and if you park it next to the original door, the texture won't match. It'll look, too flat.
It really is about matching the tool to the job. It's not just clear coat is clear coat.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And that distinction becomes even more critical when we start mixing things together. This is where the chemistry gets rigid and honestly where most people fail. And this is the math portion of our deep dive. This is where we found that gotcha I mentioned in the intro. Let's talk ratios.
Right. So let's start easy. The 462.000 spot clear uses a standard 4.1 mix ratio.
4-to-1.
That means 4 parts of clear to 1 part of activator. It's very standard, very simple. Most mixing cups have a 4.1 scale right on the side. You pour to the line, you stir, you spray. It's almost foolproof.
Simple enough. It's the cake mix of clears. But then we get to the 46500.
The 465.00 is what we call a complex mix. The ratio is 2.1 plus 20%.
Plus 20%. That's the part that trips people up. I can just see someone staring at a mixing cup scratching their head. What does that mean exactly in the real world?
It means you mix 2 parts of the clear, 1 part of the activator, and then, and this is mandatory, you add 20% reducer based on the clear volume.
So if I have 2 parts clear and 1 part activator, I still have to pour in a third liquid.
Yes, and here's why that is so critical. Remember, the 465 is a high solids clear. It is thick. Think of it like warm honey in the can. The activator hardens it, but it doesn't thin it out enough to spray properly through a fine nozzle. That 20% reducer is required to lower the viscosity.
The sources mention a specific viscosity number 15 to 16 seconds in a Zahn #2 cup. And for the listener, that's basically a little cup with a hole in the bottom, and you time how long it takes for the liquid to drain out.
Exactly. It's a fancy way of measuring thickness. If you forget that 20% reducer, your mixture is way too thick. It's going to come out of the gun like spittle. It won't atomize. It won't flow out. You will end up with severe orange peel, which is that bumpy texture that looks exactly like the skin of an orange.
I've seen that. It looks terrible. It completely ruins the reflection.
It's arguably the most common mistake with high solids clears. People treat it like a standard 4.1. They skip the reducer step because they think thicker is better, and they ruin the finish before they even pull the trigger.
So for the 465, you must add the reducer, but you can't just grab any reducer, right? And you can't just grab any activator. The temperature seems to be the dictator here.
Temperature dictates everything in chemical curing. If you aren't looking at a thermometer before you mix paint, you are just gambling. Let's look at the activators first.
Okay.
For these Nason clears, you essentially have two main choices. The 483-84 and the 483-85.
The 84 and the 85. Break down the difference for us.
The 483-84 is your mid-temp activator. It's designed for the sweet spot, 65 degrees to 80 degrees Fahrenheit.
The workhorse.
This is the workhorse. If you're in a climate-controlled shop, this is what you're using most of the year.
And the 85.
The 483-85 is the high-temp activator. This is for when it's 80 degrees and up, and it is crucial. If it's 90 degrees out and you use the standard mid-temp activator, the chemical reaction happens way too fast.
The paint will kick or dry too quickly.
Exactly, which means it doesn't have time to flatten out.
I see.
It can trap solvents, leading to bubbles, or it just looks rough because it hardened before it could flow into a flat surface.
And then we have the reducers. We have the 441, 20, 21, and 22.
Fast, medium, and slow. The logic is the same, but it's about evaporation. 441-20 is fast. Fast, use it in the cold, 50-65 degrees, so the paint dries before it runs. 441-21 is medium normal days, 65-85 degrees, and 441-22 is slow for hot days, 85 degrees plus.
I want to highlight something from the implementation protocol source. It mentioned that using a slow reducer in heat is critical to prevent dry spray. What exactly is dry spray? It sounds like a paradox.
Dry spray is a nightmare. Imagine it's a hot day, say 95 degrees. You're spraying a big roof. You squeeze the trigger, the paint atomizes into a fine mist. But because it's so hot, the solvent in those tiny droplets evaporates before the droplet hits the metal.
So it dries in midair.
Partially, yes. It turns into a little sticky solid. So instead of a wet droplet splashing and flowing, a semi-dry, sandy little ball hits the roof.
Oh, wow.
It creates a rough, sandpaper-like finish. It has zero gloss. Using that 441-22 slow reducer keeps that droplet wet through the air so it lands wet and flows out smooth.
So the chemistry isn't just about making it hard. It's about managing the flight from the gun to the car.
Precisely. You are managing the evaporation rate relative to the distance and the temperature.
Okay, we've picked our clear, we've done the math, we've checked the thermometer. Now we have to prep the panel and set up a gun. And the sources are very specific about cleanliness.
You cannot paint over dirt. If you do, the dirt becomes part of the paint job forever. The two-cloth method is the industry standard mentioned in the docs.
Right.
You use a wax and grease remover, like the Nason 441-05. You have one cloth that is soaking wet with the cleaner to dissolve the oils and waxes. And you have a second dry cloth in your other hand to wipe it off immediately.
Why immediately? Why not let it air dry? I mean, alcohol evaporates,
Because
right?
if you let it air dry, you haven't removed the contaminants. You just dissolve them, let them float around, and then let them settle back down on the surface as the cleaner evaporated. You have to wipe them off, physically remove them while they are suspended in the wet cleaner. Wipe on wet, wipe off dry.
Got it. It's active removal, not just soaking. Now, sanding. We need tooth, right?
We need mechanical adhesion. The clear coat isn't glue. It acts more like Velcro on a microscopic level. It needs scratches to hold on to.
But they have to be the right size.
They have to be the right size. If you're sealing, the protocol says P320 grit. But if you are doing a base coat clear coat job, you need P400 to P600 grit.
Why that specific range?
It's the Goldilocks zone. P400 is rough enough to give good adhesion, but fine enough that the base coat and clear coat will fill the scratches so you don't see them.
And if you go too coarse?
If you use P80, you'll see those scratches through the clear. We call that sand scratch swelling. If you use P2000, the clear might peel off down the road because it has nothing to grip.
Okay, panel is prepped. Let's grab the gun. This is where we see some debate between the official manual and the street knowledge from forums like Reddit.
The age-old battle, the technical data sheet versus the guy in the booth.
The TDS recommends a 1.3 millimeter tip for the spot repair, the 462, and a 1.4 or 1.5 millimeter tip for the overall, the 465. Right. That makes sense. Larger tip for a thicker high solids material. But let's talk pressure.
The manual is very specific regarding HVLP, that stands for high volume, low pressure guns. It calls for 8 to 10 psi at the air cap.
But 10 psi sounds incredible low to anyone who uses air tools.
That's 10 psi at the cap where the air comes out. To get 10 psi at the cap, you usually have to set the inlet pressure at the bottom of the gun handle to somewhere between 25 and 30 psi, depending on the gun model.
Okay, that clarifies things. But I found a thread on Reddit where a user named DoublePerception811, gotta love those Reddit handles.
Of course.
He says he pounds the final coat at 30 psi,
Yeah.
and sometimes even higher. He says, quote, specific my ass regarding the rules.
Yeah, and there is some validity to what he is saying, specifically regarding cheaper guns or very thick clears. Sometimes, to get a high solids clear like the 465-0 to atomize, to break up into a fine mist, you need more energy. If you stick strictly to the low end of the specs with a budget gun, you might get big droplets. Increasing the pressure breaks those droplets up finer, laying down a smoother glass-like finish.
So he's compensating for the equipment or the thickness of the material.
Exactly. But you risk more overspray and you're wasting material. The manual gives you the safe, legal, efficient baseline. Experience tells you when to cheat the rules to get the look.
Let's talk about the actual spray technique. The sources are screaming one thing: wet.
Yes! Gone are the days of the light tack coat. Old school lacquers needed a light coat first to prevent biting into the primer. Modern urethanes like Nason need 2 medium wet coats.
What does medium wet mean visually?
It means you spray enough material that it looks glossy and wet immediately as it hits the panel, but not so much that it starts to gather and run.
You want a continuous wet film.
You should see the reflection form immediately behind your gun pass.
And overlap.
75% overlap. That means your second pass should cover 75% of the previous pass. You are essentially painting everything twice in one go. This ensures you don't have dry streaks or tiger stripes.
And distance from the panel.
6 to 8 inches. Keep it consistent. If you pull back to 12 inches, you get dry sprays. If you push in to 3 inches, you blast the paint and get runs. Your arm has to be a robot.
There is a very specific warning in the technical datasheet for the 465-00000 regarding the number of coats. It says, do not apply a third coat.
This connects back to the high solids nature. The 465 builds a very thick film very quickly. If you put 3 coats on, the film becomes too thick.
And that's a problem because...
Then paint is too thick, it loses flexibility. As the car vibrates and the metal expands and contracts with heat, a super thick layer of 465 will crack. It becomes brittle.
That is a crucial takeaway. More is not better. More is failure. 2 coats, and you make them count.
Exactly.
Now we enter Section 4. The critical... wait. We've sprayed our first coat. It looks beautiful. The temptation is to just go right back over it.
Don't do it. Step away from the car.
This is the flash time. The TDS says 5 to 7 minutes between coats. Why is this variable so hidden but so dangerous?
It's all about solvent entrapment. When you spray that first coat, it's full of solvents. They need to evaporate out of the paint to let it harden.
Right.
If you spray the second coat too soon, you seal those solvents in, you trap them under a new layer of wet plastic.
And what happens if you seal them in?
They don't just disappear, they eventually fight their way out. Usually this happens while the top coat is starting to skin over. The gas pushes up and pops through the skin like a miniature volcano.
Oh no.
The result is solvent pop. It looks like someone took a needle and poked thousands of tiny holes in your clear coat. It's a disaster. You have to wait that 5 to 7 minutes to let the solvents gas off.
And we also have to talk about the flash time for the base coat, the color layer before we even touch the clear.
Yes. The rule is at least 15 minutes at 70 degrees.
What happens if I spray clear over base coat that's only been drying for 5 minutes?
You get dieback. The base coat is still shrinking as it dries. If you put clear on top, the base coat shrinks underneath the clear.
Oh.
The clear coat settles into that shrinking texture, and your shiny, glossy finish turns dull and sleepy after a few hours. It loses its gloss because the foundation moved.
So patience is technically part of the chemical formula.
It is the most difficult ingredient to add, but yes, absolutely.
Let's move to curing and buffing. We've finished spraying. When can we touch it?
For the 462-0 spot clear, it's dust-free in 20 minutes. You can buff it in 4 to 6 hours if you let it air dry. It's designed to be handled quickly.
And the 465-00, the heavyweight.
465 takes longer, dust-free in 30 minutes. But for buffing, if you air dry it, you really need to wait overnight, 12 to 24 hours. It stays soft longer because of those high solids.
If you buff it too soon, you'll just drag the paint around.
Exactly. It'll just smear.
What if we have a bake booth? Can we force dry it?
Yes. Both can be baked at 140 degrees Fahrenheit for 30 minutes. If you do that, you can pull them out, let them cool to room temp, and buff them in about 2 to 4 hours.
And the buffing recipe provided is pretty standard.
Very standard. Wet sand with 1500 grit or finer to knock down any dirt nibs or orange peel, then polish at 1700 to 2000 RPM with a rotary buffer and compound.
All right, we've arrived at the gauntlet. We're going to do 15 troubleshooting tips.
The What Went Wrong guide? This is where hearts are broken.
I'm going to name a defect found in the Paint Defects Manual, or our sources, and you give me the quick cause and the fix. Let's act like Paint CSI. Ready?
I'm ready.
Number 1, fish eyes. These crater-like openings in the paint.
Contamination. Silicone or wax on the panel. You didn't clean it well enough. Fix. Thorough degreasing with the two-cloth method. If you're desperate, use a fisheye eliminator additive, but cleaning is always better.
Number 2, solvent pop. The tiny pinholes on the surface.
Rushing the flash time. You sprayed the second coat before the first one gassed off. Prevention. Set a timer for 5 to 7 minutes between coats. Don't guess.
Number 3, dye back. The gloss looks great initially, then turns dull later on.
You rushed the base coat. You didn't wait the full 15 minutes before applying clear. The base coat shrank under the clear.
Number 4, orange peel. That texture looking like fruit skin.
Viscosity issues. For the 46500, you likely forgot the 20% reducer, or your gun pressure was too low to atomize the paint.
Number 5, dry spray. A rough, sandy finish.
It's too hot and your reducer is too fast. The paint is drying in the air. Fix. Switch to the 44122 slow reducer in temperatures over 85 degrees.
Number 6, runs and sags. Paint dripping down the panel.
You're too close with the gun, moving too slow, or it's too cold. Be careful with the 465.0 in cold temps. It loves to slide.
Number 7, adhesion loss. Just peeling off a plastic bumper.
You miss the adhesion promoter. Plastic acts like oil. Paint hates it. You need a chemical bond. Or you didn't scuff the plastic enough.
Number 8, sand scratch swelling. You can see the sanding marks appearing in the final finish.
You used too coarse a grit. You stopped at P320 when you should have gone to P600. Or the primer underneath wasn't fully cured and it shrank into the scratches.
Number 9, soft film. The paint is dry, but your fingerprint leaves a mark.
Bad mix ratio. You didn't put enough activator in. Or you didn't give it enough cure time before handling.
Number 10, cracking. Those spider webs in the paint months later.
Excessive film thickness. You applied that forbidden third coat of 465.000.
Number 11, cloudiness or blushing. A milky white look in the clear.
Moisture. It's humid. Or you have water in your airline. Check your compressor drains.
Number 12, pinholes. These are different from solvent pop.
Usually air trapped in body filler or primer that wasn't sealed properly. The air bubbles up through the clear.
Number 13, corrosion. Rust bubbling up under your brand new paint.
Handling bare metal with bare hands. The oils and salts from your skin started the rust before you even primed. Wear gloves.
Number 14, color mismatch on metallics. The fender looks darker than the door.
This is often a clear coat application issue. If you apply the clear too wet and heavy, it can re-wet the base coat and cause the metallic flakes to sink or tilt, changing the way light hits them.
And finally, number 15, dust in the finish.
Painting outside the dust-free window, or bad booth hygiene, or wearing a wool sweater in the spray booth, wear a proper paint suit.
That is a comprehensive list of disasters to avoid. It sounds scary, but every single one of those is preventable with process.
Exactly. It's not luck, it's chemistry.
So what does this all mean for the listeners standing in the mixing room?
It means that the Nason 462 and 465 are incredible tools. They can produce show car results, but they are not magic wands. They are chemical systems. If you respect the chemistry, if you match the product to the repair size, if you use the 20% reducer in the 465, if you respect the temperature, you win.
It's about precision.
Precision over muscle.
And here is where it gets really interesting to me. We used to think about paint as more is better. Stack it deep, rub it out. But this deep dive into high solids urethanes proves something else. The science says that a single perfectly calculated wet layer or two is chemically superior to stacking up paint.
The 46500 specifically fails if you do too much.
It raises an important question about the future of craft. Is the future of paint about doing less, but doing it with perfect precision? Are we moving away from the spray and pray method to a sniper-like approach where you verify your mix, you verify your temp, you spray 2 perfect passes, and you walk away?
I think that's exactly where we are. The chemistry is doing the work now, so the painter doesn't have to muscle it.
Something to think about the next time you see a car that looks like it's still wet. Check your shop temp, check your mix ratio, and for the love of gloss, don't forget the reducer in the 465.
And please, wear your respirator.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll see you on the next one.